Just ahead on Black Issues Forum, a special segment from the Queen City to see how the OWN Network's TV series Delilah has highlighted historically Black neighborhoods in Charlotte and created opportunities for local artists and the city. Stay with us. In the midst of a global pandemic during the summer of racial reckoning, the Queen City played host to the filming of a television series by Oprah's network OWN. Delilah is a drama about a Black woman lawyer working and raising a family in Charlotte. To bring it to life authentically, series creator Craig Wright tapped an executive producer who not only called North Carolina home, but who also believed strongly that representation matters. I visited Charlotte and sat down with the EP Charles Randolph-Wright and others to find out how he pursued representation and created access with Delilah and continues to do so. Why was Charlotte chosen as the destination for this production, but also as the real-life city in this drama?
Craig had picked Charlotte because he had been reading about it and about what has happened in this city, what's happening in North Carolina. I went, Charlotte, North Carolina, Charlotte? And they said yes, and I said, you know where I'm from, right? That's my home. Well, I grew up in York, South Carolina, which is just south of Charlotte. So Charlotte was my city. Charlotte is where I saw my first Broadway show, my first concert, everything I did was here. I worked at Carowinds in the summers, so it was my home. And then I went to Duke University, so I'm a Carolina man in so many ways. And I keep saying to people, it's so thrilling now to be proud of my states, because for so long I felt I had to apologize about from whence I came because of all the things that were happening. And now to see how things are turning, how things are changing, it's very exciting to be a part of that.
We are coming into ourselves as the 15th largest city in the nation, that this is a setting that people are becoming much more familiar with, not just in North Carolina, but around the country and around the world. The folks over at Warner Brothers, the folks over at OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, I think we're wise enough to say, hey, this is an up and coming market, and this is a new setting. This is a new character, and to tell stories with and from. And I think that was really the most important reason why this series has been set here. You know, it's a very, as Charles says, a black city, but people don't necessarily always think about that because it is very, very layered. We're a city that has had the ability for Black people to be leaders from an elected position. I'm grateful that I'm not breaking any ceilings. Maybe our mayor is, but I'm not breaking any ceilings by being a Black council member. That's something that this city is used to. So we have folks from the grassroots to the grass tops.
Notes of these historically Black neighborhoods are weaved throughout the TV drama Delilah. The big law firm where Delilah's best friend Tamra practices was filmed in Uptown Charlotte, also called Second Ward, which was once the Black neighborhood Brooklyn. Dr. Willie Griffin, executive director of the Levine Museum of the New South, has studied Charlotte's history extensively.
You know, there's a long history of Black community building around Uptown Charlotte. Brooklyn started off as Logtown. Brooklyn was probably the largest Black community in North or South Carolina. And people are probably familiar with the terms urban renewal because they affected cities all across the country, particularly Black communities. And following the destruction or razing of Brooklyn in the 1950s, you begin to see this string of Black neighborhoods that began to develop along the west side, or what we call the West End corridor, along Badersford Road.
The West End area is near where Delilah's father-in-law, the police chief, lives. This part of Charlotte is considered the seat of the city's civil rights movement, as it was the home of Dorothy Counts, the first Black student to integrate Mecklenburg County schools, and that of Johnson C. Smith University students who led the city's first sit-in. But the characters from Delilah, by profession, by social status, and attitude, very much reflect the character of the African Americans who settled these neighborhoods. Dr. Griffin says the story of urban renewal helps connect the dots.
We have to remember that the highways that were built as a result of urban renewal, they cut through other black neighborhoods, black communities like Greenville and McCrory Heights. McCrory Heights was a upper middle class black neighborhood started by the president of Johnson C. Smith. And when urban renewal hit, it cut through a good portion of McCrory Heights. And so these were homes of affluent African Americans who had means to sort of push back against what was happening. And you had at least 4 of those homes that were in McCrory Heights originally. The owners were able to physically move their homes several miles down Beatties-Ford Road and started Hyde Park. Hyde Park is founded in the 1960s, mid-1960s, and it is to date the most influential or affluent black community in the city, full of large ranch homes. A lot of the homes were designed by Harvey Gantt. So you had architects living, artists living in the community, dentists, lawyers, a lot of just the most influential African Americans in the city made this their home.
Nancy Weber is a real-life resident of Hyde Park.
We have beautiful trees, and the sweet part about Hyde Park too is there's still nature there. Because of the architectural design of our neighborhood, there's no house the same. They're all custom built. And there were professional people that were looking for places to live, educators, doctors, lawyers, and some just regular people, you know, without any particular profession. But they were good people who were looking for a better life for their children and something that they could pass on to their children. I appreciate the fact that they chose our neighborhood to do some of the filming, because we are like a hidden jewel that everybody doesn't know about.
Also somewhat hidden is knowledge about the Black historical roots of Charlotte, its truth brought to light by the modern social justice movement.
In 2016, after the death of Keith Lamont Scott, we had a week of demonstrations, and the young people who led that movement decided, you know, it was very important to demonstrate here in Uptown Charlotte. It was a place where they didn't feel welcomed. This place was really built. It felt like, for many different reasons, it felt like, and still does feel like, that this is not a place for young black folks. And so as we were walking through these streets of Brevard, 3rd Street, Trade and Tryon, you know, when we were yelling, whose streets are streets, whose streets are streets, when I started doing my research, when I started trying to figure out what I was doing in this movement and what were these forces that I was feeling, it was like a light bulb went off. Like, that wasn't rhetoric, it was really true. These were the streets that we belonged on, but we have been pushed out. And that inertia doesn't go away, you know? That feeling of being pushed out, being moved away from something that calls to you, is something that exists in our neighborhoods all around Charlotte today. And our young people, again, feel that.
That spirit of reclamation reawakened the summer Delilah entered production with the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis and intensity of COVID spread.
I always talk about we have 2 pandemics. We have a health pandemic and a race pandemic. And they've influenced each other in ways beyond anything you can imagine. And so all of our work now has happened in a reflection of that. Interestingly, I'm working on a project about the Harlem Renaissance, and the Harlem Renaissance happened after the pandemic in 1918. And people don't realize what happened, the way art exploded out of that, the Roaring '20s, Harlem Renaissance, that happened after a pandemic. So I feel that we are due an explosion beyond what we've ever had before. And what George Floyd did, especially in our industry, is call out our industry, because people think because of what we do, who we are, that this world of entertainment is very liberal and open, and it's not. I've been hired only in my career of decades by two people who look like me, and that was Berry Gordy and Oprah Winfrey. And what that means when you don't see someone who looks like you, it makes you feel that you are not being seen. And what this did for me shooting in Charlotte was I was the person in charge to be sure that people were seen. So in the show of Delilah, especially the women in that and the men in that, but the women, it's mainly about the women, were women I knew. They were women with whom I went to college. They're the women in my family, and you don't typically see that. And as Southern Black women, we're typified in ways, Southern Black women and men. It's the way we are depicted is often very negative. It's often in this realm of trauma, in this realm of degradation, and especially during this pandemic, I want to find joy. And you can find joy in all kinds of ways.
And Charles found joy close by intentionally choosing North Carolina talent to fill character roles, like Delilah's nephew Dion Connolly, played by Khalil Johnson of Pineville, Delilah's friend Mace by actor Joe Holt of Raleigh, and Delilah's daughter Maya, played by newcomer and Charlotte native Kelly Jacobs.
I was so thrilled. In the opening of Delilah, the mother's trying to get ready for work and get her kids ready to go to school. And there's a daughter who's 16 who's playing violin. And from that very first page, I was in love. I thought this image is amazing, and I thought I have to find this violinist in Charlotte.
Well, did you have an opportunity to work directly with Charles Wright?
Of course, yeah.
What's he like?
He is the most encouraging person I know. His words are so inspiring every single day, and he just makes me want to do better.
How do you describe your city, Charlotte?
I would say ambitious. The people here, so talented. Me and Maya, I would say the only thing we have in common is the violin, but other than that, we're pretty much opposites. But no, Maya shows ambition, she shows determination, and the effort that she puts into following her dream is something that I would say represents my generation, my up-and-coming generation a lot these days, of really putting forth the effort and going through hardships to achieve what you want.
Filming in Charlotte provided a way for Kelly to explore acting at home. Delilah also drew back to home Joe Holt, who had left North Carolina to pursue his dreams in New York and L.A.
Joe Holt and I did a project, a stage musical years ago in New York, and I hadn't seen Joe in a long time. And so when the actors came in, we were auditioning, and his tape came in, I went, oh my God, Joe Holt. So from that second on, I was determined he has to do this role.
I walked in the door on the first day of shooting. He's like, come here, you. And I'm like, what's up, man? And aside from his Duke heritage, he's a great guy. He's had multiple experiences in every phase of entertainment. He's been an actor, producer, director. So you feel a tremendous amount of trust and support.
It's interesting because he's this detective type, and it's so, that detective typically you see in film noir. It's that kind of great character that we don't ever get to play.
I never thought of playing Mace as a certain kind of guy. I saw the words on the page and I saw the things that he did, and that created a person to me that was a lot of fun. You know, I think of Mace as a detective that has like a bourbon bottle in his desk, you know, and at the end of the day, he's having a couple of slugs going out to a gin joint. Like, that's who Mace is.
Joe got to bring this character and became a fan favorite on the show. I hate telling him that, but he became a fan favorite because he just had this quality that you don't see.
No Land Rover?
Nope, but there is an ambulance. Leah may be on to something, Dee.
Why? What happened?
Gary Shea's dead.
even though I said the 4 women were the leads, the men were very powerful and different. And it was important to me that they were the men that I knew.
My connection to North Carolina is that both my parents are from Raleigh, North Carolina. I have a lot of family from North Carolina going way back. My sister, who you may know, went to St. Augustine's.
Stop it. For those of you who don't know, Joe's my brother.
And my sister told me not to look directly into the camera, so that was really useful.
But I can do it because I'm the producer.
You're the producer and I'm not, so I can't do this.
What are your thoughts about opportunities for actors of color in general?
It's pretty obvious that the playing field is more limited for people of color. Just look at your TV and you can see that, although that's improving, and that's what I'm hopeful about. I think the larger problem is the way that people of color are seen is still very stereotypical. It's still very kind of cliched, and we need to have the opportunity to play all kinds of characters. There's still a long way to go. This business is not an altruistic one, it's a money business, and that's what's unfortunate. But we need more and more people in higher positions. We need more and more showrunners. We need more and more creators of color so that we can start telling those stories. And to get a job working in my home state I was just incredibly grateful. It was a wonderful gift to come my way, which was, as most things in this business, some combination of earned and luck. And I was just thrilled.
You are not finished with Charlotte.
No.
And you are here again for a very special purpose. Tell me the concept behind your video and why you want to debut it the weekend of Juneteenth.
Stephanie Mills is an artist who, of course, we all adore. And Stephanie Mills is a friend of mine, dear friend of mine, and she said, oh, I'm working on something. So she sent this song to me, and called Let's Do the Right Thing, and it floored me. And I thought, this is an anthem.
Ooh, let's do the right thing. Yeah, we all win in the end. Oh, yeah.
I never wanted to really come out and record again. I had said I wasn't going to record an album or a single, but I was so inspired by Charles and Marcus and working with him. I was inspired to do it, and I just kept writing, and we have like 7, 8 songs now.
So she's written all this music now, so this weekend we're shooting a video for her song, Let's Do the Right Thing, and I was inspired by all the Black Lives Matter paintings all over the world when they painted the streets. So I'm using 4 local artists in this video who are all painting their idea of Stephanie as she's singing this anthem.
We've been terrorized for the last 4 years, and especially this year and a half with the pandemic and having another person in the White House. And there's no way I could not write a song about what's going on in our world. So that was very important to me, and I feel like as our community, the Black community, we need to do the right thing for us and stop looking to others to help us, to pull us up. We need to come together and do what we need to do for us.
You know, on Juneteenth, let's do the right thing. Stephanie Mills returning. She said she's walking into her purpose, because we all have to be responsible. We all have to do something. We can't just sit back and let what happens happen. We have to shift. We have to change things. And as Stephanie wrote in this, we have to do the right thing. We do.
Each of us.
Yes.
Each of us.
We all win in the end. We need to do the right thing. There's no need to fear. We have the strength to find.
I want to thank today's guests and especially the Foundation for the Carolinas and Brooklyn Collective for hosting us in Charlotte. We invite you to engage with us on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag Black Issues Forum. Watch anytime on pbsnc.org/Black Issues Forum or listen back on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or Google Podcasts. Finally, wishing everyone happy Juneteenth. And to all the dads, a happy Father's Day. For Black Issues Forum, I'm Deborah Holt Noel. Thanks for watching.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting PBS NC.